Hello, Vasily, and hello to all of our listeners tonight. My name is John Kountouris, and I am a Greek-American journalist from Los Angeles. I have a lot to share with you all tonight about basically the Illuminati in relation to Hollywood and, of course, the Oscar Awards. Thank you, John, for being on tonight. As we know, a lot of these type of issues have already been dealt with, and the Internet is full of them. But as we know, the mainstream news media never talks about this stuff. Even though a lot of the stuff, of course, is true, they're never going to mention it. Anyway, each one can come up with his own conclusion as to why the mainstream news media will never talk about all this stuff. So, John, basically they have said that Leonardo DiCaprio is the chosen amongst the elite of Hollywood to promote, of course, global warming. Others talk about how he's now wearing the red bracelet of the Kabbalah, just like how Madonna is, and now he belongs to the Kabbalists in Hollywood, Kabbalists. Others talk about how the stage at the Oscars forms one big giant eye, like that of the Illuminati. Yes, Vasily, we have a lot to talk about all this. First of all, I live here in Los Angeles, near Hollywood. And, of course, whenever my Greek friends come from Greece, they go crazy over Hollywood. They want me to take them to Hollywood to see a bunch of sights or to do sightseeing. But basically, in the end, everyone gets disillusioned about Hollywood once they start learning the truth about it and what it's really promoting, what it's really all about. But basically, when people begin to learn the truth about Hollywood, they learned that basically Hollywood is nothing more than one big fairy tale. And we know that people think that, whoever becomes a movie star becomes super famous and becomes like a demigod. But as we know, this does not reflect reality, because all those who actually win the Oscar award, but as we know, they have to first basically pass through some initiation rites through secret societies, and then they're allowed to become famous, and then they're allowed to basically show their face all over TV, through the media. And really it's at that point where they start coming into their own as actors in Hollywood. And Leonardo DiCaprio is one of those types. He started his career about 25 years ago. He started, of course, when he was a little kid. He has played in many, many movies in Hollywood. But as we know, it took him about 25 years before he actually won the Oscar. What I believe personally and about him and his career, and according to my own research, basically what I think is that he decided to make a desperate move at this point in his career. So what I believe is that he took the leap of faith and went and basically was initiated into the Jewish Kabbalah. Their main hall is situated here in Hollywood, which I've passed by many times driving through Hollywood. And, of course, we know that's where Madonna goes a lot. But these people, of course, have no clue what all this means, actually, with regards to, what actually takes place, or in other words, what the Kabbalah is all about, what it promotes. So basically what this means is that, they have to sell their souls to the sinister purpose of the Jewish Kabbalists. And of course the goal of the Kabbalists is to basically do away with Christian culture, a Christian society, and to promote one world order. And of course Jewish Kabbalah is basically all over Jewish society around the world, societies. Kabbalah is nothing more than a branch of modern-day Judaism. But as we know, it is the more dominant form of modern-day Judaism. So basically, when Leonardo DiCaprio went onto the stage to talk about his new Oscar award, he basically received an order from his higher-ups to basically sell us this whole notion of global warming. And as we know, the very powerful Masonic elite, which are ruled at the top by very powerful Jewish circles, they have developed for us a very beautiful, quote-unquote, an amazing, quote-unquote, plan by which to take over the whole world. I'm talking about none other than Agenda 21. And as you know, Agenda 21 is directly tied in, of course, with global warming. So basically, Leonardo's mission was to preach to us the gospel, so to speak, of global warming at the Oscars in order to basically shock us into all believing that it's true. So basically, I'd like to go over an article that Fox News even wrote about Leonardo DiCaprio at the Oscars with the title, Leonardo DiCaprio Preaches Environmental Responsibility, but Does He Practice It? And that was published on March 2nd, 2016. And it says, Leonardo DiCaprio uses his Oscar acceptance speech on Sunday to deliver a message about the perils of global warming. But the A-lister actor who flies private jets, rents out entire yachts, and maintains multi-million-dollar residences has a carbon footprint that's likely among the biggest in the world. Making the quote-unquote Revenant was about man's relationship to the natural world, a world that we collectively felt in 2015 as the hottest year in recorded history, DiCaprio said at the Academy Awards. Our production needs to move to the southern tip of the planet just to be able to find snow. Climate change is real. It is happening right now. It is the most urgent threat facing our entire species, and we need to work collectively together and stop procrastinating. So basically what I'd like to comment here is that, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio is preaching the so-called gospel of global warming, but obviously, you know, his life does not reflect it, and he has the audacity to shake his finger at us for, of course, global warming, which is just utterly ridiculous. Of course, DiCaprio did not give us the facts about global warming. All he did was stand up there at the podium and preach to us and tell us that it's real. And he's not going to, because these people cannot defend their arguments in favor of global warming, because they know that basically if they went up against a real scientist, he would utterly, of course, destroy them. And of course, that's what Al Gore does also with global warming. He says that the case is closed about global warming, the facts are out, and that, you know, there's no need to argue about it. And that's why, still to this day, he refuses to basically have any type of debate on this issue in public with anyone. As we know, Leonardo DiCaprio cares nothing about basically keeping all of the principles that he touts concerning global warming. But basically, continuing with the same article from Fox News, it states, but experts point out that a big part of reducing one's carbon footprint is to stop buying so many expensive, energy-consuming toys. So basically, you know, if global warming were real, and if our carbon footprints cause harm to the environment, then basically it would be the big elite out there that would be most responsible for all this, because they're the ones that buy all the big expensive yachts and airplanes and things of that sort and leave the biggest carbon footprint behind them. So continuing with the article, DiCaprio himself has said as much. His environmental foundation, the Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation, even produced a series of videos to teach people how to conserve energy. But the actor still takes private flights to his premieres and vacations, which in the last 2 years alone included Los Angeles, London, Tokyo, New York, and Brazil. Yes, John, I totally agree with what you're saying. But let's talk a little bit more now about all of this and make this a conversation. Let's dialogue a little bit about all of this. Basically, John, you're right about all of this. But, not too many people in Greece yet are aware about all this and who actually monitor all this. But what we observe here is basically the following. The people who have this agenda about global warming, and of course the people promoting this are all the rich elite, and they're all connected with each other in strange and odd ways, of course. You're absolutely right, Vasily, about that one. Now, with regards to global warming, a lot of things have been mentioned and said about it, a lot of different viewpoints. I am certainly not a scientist who can talk about all this, who's qualified to talk about all this. I have done previous broadcasts about global warming with some colleagues of mine. I do know that the well-known journalist from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones, has done a huge report on this regarding some scientists from England. And basically these scientists came to the conclusion with their research that the planet is not overheating. And so basically Alex Jones is saying that the elite that run basically England and of course the whole world were trying to hide all this data. So basically their agenda is to enslave people through this propaganda, to basically impose on us environmental taxes. They basically want to tax us for everything, even for the cows that pass gas. And we know that whatever is taking place in major countries like America is now spreading to other countries too, like Greece. And of course in Greece a lot of people are deceived and they've bought into this. So basically, as to where this whole situation is going to go, basically it's not that easy to figure out. But you're correct, Vasily. Basically, whoever goes into Google and types, in global warming, one of the very first sites that you will see in the search results is globalclimatescam.com. So basically, if you go to the site, if you search this way, basically for global warming, you come across a site. It came out with a very revealing article recently that talks about 10 points that disprove that global warming is real. And basically, number one is that we have record ice. Number two is we have record snow. Number three is record cold. The fourth point, oceans are rising much less than predicted. Point 5, polar bears are thriving. Point 6, mooses are making a comeback, etc., etc. So basically, the data that was collected for this article to be written is, of course, from top scientists all over the world. Several years ago, I must point out, a huge group of scientists from organizations all over the world, including NASA, got together and made a common declaration, basically stating that global warming is a fraud and that we shouldn't support it. So we're talking about scientists from top universities and NASA who made this declaration, and it was at least 30,000 of them that signed off on it. So basically, all of these scientists were calling upon world leaders to basically start rethinking global warming and to really, really get into it and research it properly, because it's causing a lot of harm and damage wherever it's being promoted. So this indeed is incredible. So we're basically talking about scientists that, are from the biggest, most reputable universities around the world, over 30,000 of them. But now let's take a look at some research that the founder of the Weather Channel recently did. I'm talking about none other than the initial founder of the Weather Channel, who goes by the name of John Coleman. And we know that the Weather Channel is the top weather channel around the world. So basically, John Coleman has become even more popular in recent years because of his stance against global warming. So basically, several years ago, John Coleman did a pretty revealing report on global warming. So basically, his report included unbelievable data, basically proving that global warming is a fraud, and it completely, utterly destroys the arguments of all the scientists that are in favor of global warming. So basically, he also said that this is nothing more than a fraud by which many scientists and organizations can get federal grant money. And, of course, the one guy that's included in all of this, that's the spearheading this whole global warming movement, is none other than the deceiver Al Gore, the former vice president of the United States of America. So, in Coleman's report, he refers to a very famous scientist who started all this by the name of Roger Revels, who was the first scientist that started with this whole theory about global warming when he wrote this report in 1957, supposedly proving its existence. And in the 1960s, he transferred from Berkeley and went to become a professor in Harvard. And there he met one of his new students by the name of Al Gore. So Al Gore at that time had been very inspired by all these theories on global warming and decided to make a career out of it. But in 1988, Mr. Roger Revels begins to rethink his theories and to basically negate or recant them concerning global warming. So basically, at this time, Roger Revels in the late 80s is sending letters to congressmen and stating that basically he's been rethinking his global warming theories and that we all should do the same too because we don't have conclusive evidence about how the emissions of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere is creating a heating effect. So basically his whole point was we need to stop promoting this until we come up with enough proof that basically global warming is real and that it is a threat to the planet. But about 10 years ago, when Al Gore started his whole global warming campaign, he was asked by a reporter about what he thought about Roger Revels rethinking and, of course, basically going back on his whole global warming theories, and Al Gore clearly stated that the man was senile. So anyway, Al Gore is determined to continue this fraud, and up until now, he has accumulated it is estimated, about $100 million from this scam. So basically, any scientist out there who does not support global warming and who's part of a big university, he loses his funding automatically from the federal government. That's right, John, but to basically go back to what we're saying at the beginning about Leonardo DiCaprio and how when he was receiving his Oscar, he was calling people to basically pay attention to the supposed threat of global warming. Basically what you're saying, John, is that these people are basically lying to us and they're promoting this fraud in order to carry out their agenda, and how basically they're making all kinds of money off of this fraud. So basically, let's close out this portion of the broadcast, and let's go to the actual ceremony of the Oscars themselves. And let's look at some pictures here, some symbols, which we already see here on the screen. So we've already seen a photograph where Leonardo DiCaprio is wearing this red thing around his wrist, and people say it's the Kabbalah bracelet. And basically how there's other actors out there that belong to this secret, this dangerous, this sinister organization. Of course, we also have the pyramid of the Oscars, which people say resembles the pyramid of the Illuminati. And basically, this past week, John, you had sent me this photograph, which shows the Oscar stage and how it resembles one big giant eye of the Illuminati, in other words. So what can you tell us more on this? Basically, the Oscar ceremony, Vasily, is one big ceremony in honor of Satan. And basically all of this is evident through the symbology there, through the symbology of Hollywood movies in general. I mean, basically the symbols that they use are of the Illuminati, and the Illuminati refers to Satan, basically. So basically, if we want to deepen our knowledge more on this subject, we have to basically go back to the origins of Hollywood. And in this case, we need to go back to ancient Scandinavia, where basically a certain goddess was worshipped, the goddess Holly. So basically, like I said, this all goes back to ancient Scandinavia, and in the ancient days, the Druidic priests, in order to do basically their ceremonies, they would go to certain types of trees where they would encounter the goddess Holly or Hel in order to basically worship her. So basically it was Holly that basically gave them power when they prayed to her, and who basically heard their prayers. But of course you're never going to hear this like this from Hollywood. So basically Hollywood refers to the wooden staff or, basically wand of the goddess Holly or Hel. So basically, this magic wand, so to speak, today resembles the power of the people in Hollywood to make the most amazing, beautiful movies in Hollywood around the whole world, basically. That's what that symbolizes. A perfect example of this is the cartoons, the Disney cartoons that our children watch. So basically, when you see Mickey Mouse, for example, in the Disney Channel, dress as a magician and have a wand in hand. And then, of course, we see Mickey with the wand and how he brandishes it and it does magical things with it. So basically, what does this all mean? What it means is that they're casting spells on our children that are watching all this stuff. And that's why every parent should be very careful as to what his or her children basically watches on the Disney Channel or any other of these cartoon networks. So Oscar, what does Oscar mean? Oscar refers to Osiris in ancient Egypt. So basically, who was Osiris? Osiris was the god of the underworld. And so, according to Egyptian folklore, every pharaoh that basically died, he died and then he basically went into the underworld. And he went there to get reborn, quote unquote. And he would be reborn as a quote-unquote star in order, of course, to live eternally. But the soul of the pharaoh had to first be turned into a certain type of spirit. And this had to happen before he arrived to encounter Cyrus, who would give him life eternal. And, of course, he was situated in Hades, or in the underworld. So basically, what do we see here? What we see is that the Oscar ceremony that takes place, it resembles those that take place basically during the initiation rites for new Freemasons. All of this dates back to ancient Egypt, and we know that the ancient Babylonians adopted all these customs too. And we know that 600 years before Christ, roughly, the Jews were basically exiled into Babylon as a people, and there they learned all their ways and customs. So in the Old Testament, God warns the Hebrews that when they would go into exile to basically make sure that they abstain from all the practices of the Babylonians. Otherwise, they would lose their faith as a people and, of course, their relationship with God. And so basically now we arrive to the period of the New Testament. It was Christ himself who rebuked them basically for adopting these customs. And basically at that time, the first edition of the Talmud had already been drafted. But after Christ had died and risen again, and after the apostolic period, what happened? Basically, the Jews were exiled out of Jerusalem. They were kicked out, and basically, where did they go? They went to Babylon. Basically, they returned to Babylon in order to start practicing again all of the practices of the Babylonians, including, of course, black magic. So basically, the Kabbalist Jews of today apply these same principles in Hollywood. So basically what you're saying, John, is that basically all the elites in Hollywood are the continuators of all of these occultic type of traditions. And so now what we see on the screen is basically the pyramid of the Oscars, which resembles, of course, a pyramid of the Illuminati. So basically, anytime anyone wants to look into these things and research them, he finds all these strange, of course, coincidences, these strange proofs that Hollywood is indeed carrying on symbols of the Illuminati. So people have to wonder, is this all real? Is this legit what they're doing? But basically, these are too striking. The parallels between Hollywood and the Illuminati are too striking to call these simply coincidences. That's right, Vasily. And a few days ago, I had sent you a picture of the stage of the Oscars that basically resembles 100% with a huge eyeball. And of course, it resembles the all-seeing eye of the Freemasons. Because we know it's the Freemasons that are leading basically the charge in Hollywood. They're the ones that tell producers what to do and how to put all this secret symbolism in their movies. But of course, it was very few who really observed and saw that the whole Oscar stage resembled a big eye. But of course, all the movie stars in Hollywood, they know very well what this is all about. And of course, we hear them making fun of the Illuminati, even in their commercials or in their news interviews. They know very well, though, that they have to adhere to all this in order to basically become famous in Hollywood. And that's why, of course, they willingly sell their souls for fame. But of course, they know that, unless they do all this, they're never going to basically gain fame in Hollywood or even win an Oscar, for that matter. And that's why I believe that Leonardo DiCaprio finally realized that he had to take the big plunge into Kabbalism in order to get the Oscar. But as we can see, he's a pretty miserable individual because he talks about global warming, but yet he doesn't give any proof about it. But according to reports, this past January, DiCaprio came here to LA and was initiated into basically Kabbalah. And that's why, of course, he touts now the red Kabbalah bracelet that he wears around his wrist. And we also saw him last February wearing the same bracelet when he went to visit the Pope. So basically, all these recent developments in DiCaprio's career are basically what led him to the point now where he got awarded the Oscar. So he gets awarded the Oscar, so he too can become a demigod. But basically, according to the ancient Oscar tradition, as we learn of it from ancient Egypt. So basically, in ancient Egypt, you had these craftsmen, these artists, these, I guess, artisans, who made amazing hieroglyphics. And basically, whoever in any given year designed the best hieroglyphics was awarded this statue in the form of the god Ptah, P-T-A-H. So basically, the statue of Ptah depicted this proto-Egyptian god standing upright and basically holding a staff in his hand from his hands that reached to the ground. And this is exactly what the Oscar statue resembles today. So basically back then, whoever made the best hieroglyphics won this statue. And of course, the same thing happens today at the Oscar ceremonies. And that's why today the Oscar award resembles the god Ptah from ancient Egypt, which of course is very interesting because most of us have not analyzed the Oscar statue from this standpoint because most of us don't know basically what it resembles, but that is indeed what it resembles, the god Ptah from ancient Egypt. So basically, whoever gets the Oscar becomes like a demigod, and he's recognized as one of the most select actors in Hollywood. So basically, when an actor receives the Oscar, he gets initiated, let's say, into this secret ceremony, and this is played out before our eyes during the actual Oscar ceremonies, but of course, very few of us understand what's going on. That is indeed unbelievable what you're telling us, John. And basically what we see here is that in Hollywood, they're nothing more than the continuators of ancient religious rites from, ancient Egypt. So basically we have a caste. It's like a caste in Hollywood that carries on these ancient ceremonies from ancient times. Regardless, of course, whether we live in the modern age with all this new technology or not. Of course, there are people that take this issue even farther and sort of elicit, quote-unquote, things that basically pertain to this sort of a conspiracy, which a lot of people end up not really espousing or even believing. In other words, they talk about an unseen world order that basically controls the planet and that wants to break up the social cohesion of society, particularly if it's based on Christian principles and values. So basically, let's continue with John Kountouris. John, during the break, I received a lot of messages, and basically a lot of people are saying, bravo, John, for having the boldness to say what you're saying. Well, Vasily and listeners out there, I live here in Hollywood, and basically I get a lot of information firsthand about what goes on there. For basically all, that I'm alleging here. I'm also myself connected with Hollywood. For example, right now I'm trying to basically put together a documentary on the Greek economic crisis in conjunction, in cooperation with some people that work in the industry. But basically, I've told them that my purpose is to get the truth out about what Greece has gone through in the past 6 years. But of course, as we know, it's difficult for one to enter into Hollywood in order to make a constructive, a beautiful, and Christian-based type of a film. But I'd like to point out to the audience here two things first. When we see films from Hollywood, it's basically so that they can enchant us with their propaganda. And that's why, of course, they call it Hollywood, from the meaning, Hollywood. So it's basically there's a magician hiding behind the scenes as we watch these movies, and he's waving his wand over us, enchanting us, but we don't really know what he's doing, or we don't even see him. But basically, when we're watching Hollywood films, we're being enchanted, and we say, oh, how beautiful basically are these scenes and things of that sort when we watch these movies. But what we really don't realize is that they're passing messages into our subconscious. But we know, of course, that could be very dangerous because according to the best schools of psychology and psychiatry today, they say that it is the subconscious which is what emits energy into the universe for us. And, of course, this has an effect to create our realities. But basically what DiCaprio said about global warming, but we have to realize that Hollywood itself takes its orders from above, let's say, to basically promote this vile message. Because as I said before, this issue, of course, with global warming ties in with Agenda 21 of the United Nations. So, as we know, Agenda 21 is a very sinister program that was created by the United Nations back in 1992 with all the nations of the earth. And all the world leaders, of course, signed off on this, including, of course, George H. Walker Bush, the Mr. Conservative, quote-unquote. And basically, it has to do with the destruction of a Christian civilization. It has to do with doing away with the right of one to own his own, of course, land, his own property. And, of course, they want to do away with the idea of the family unit. We're talking about the unit of the family as we've known it from ancient times up until today. They want to eliminate every remnant of a Christian society from the earth. This is what they're aiming at, and that's why they preached us the gospel, so to speak, of global warming. But of course, for us Christians, it was Apostle Paul who had warned us about all this back in the first chapter of the book of Romans. And basically what it says is that people in the latter days have desired to worship the creation rather than, of course, their creator. And that's why, of course, in the rest of the chapter, it says that God has surrendered these people unto a base form of mind. Wow, John, that's interesting. Well, let's go back to this photo that you had sent me, John, about a few days ago. And, of course, it was my stage manager, Vasilis Vatekas, who gave me the idea, basically, to do this show based on this photo here that you gave me where the Oscar stage looks like an Illuminati eyeball. So, basically, John, this is the photo that you had sent me. So, basically, this photo says, it's a meme, and it says, did anyone notice the Oscar stage is one big giant eye? So basically, John, analyze this for us. Why is this looking like one big eyeball? Well, basically, Vasily, what this refers to is basically the god Osiris, which I talked about before. It's Osiris that is the all-seeing eye, and of course, he ties in. So basically, that's how I was saying before, when the pharaohs would die during ancient Egypt, they would have to then go into the underworld. And they would be turned into a spirit, and then they would have the right to meet Osiris there in the underworld. And of course, Cyrus would grant them eternal life. And this is precisely what the actors of Hollywood are aiming for in their own personal lives. So basically, the actors of Hollywood know that to some degree they have to worship Satan in order to acquire fame. Everything that we see on the Oscar stage has to do basically with one big Freemasonic ritual. And that's why basically people that are Christian, people of morality, they really need to start rethinking the fact that, they thought that Hollywood movies were so awesome and so great all these years. Because how can moral people sit there and enjoy basically the messages that Hollywood spews out at the public? And of course we have to realize that as we sit there and watch these movies, they're trying to pass into our subconscious their own message. And basically, we Christian Orthodox believers have, basically veered from Christ's way by allowing Hollywood to influence us. So basically, the big Illuminati eyeball on the stage, which makes up the stage of the Oscars, is nothing more than Hollywood's way of telling us that the New World Order is real. And basically they're telling us is that the New World Order has already overshadowed the whole world and that sooner or later we have to accept it. That's basically what they're trying to tell us with this ugly show that they're putting on for us here. But I personally am just bewildered when I see Greeks that are very smart and that know a lot of deep things, who are very knowledgeable about basically the New World Order and who have done the research, but who don't know basically at all the relationship between Hollywood and the Illuminati, as well as many other people out there in America and around the world who basically are influenced by Hollywood easily, and they've never looked into these things. We're talking about people that regularly watch Hollywood movies and have no problem with its message. That's why the fight against the New World Order starts basically from an informational level. And so, as I said before, they're trying to attack our subconscious. They're trying to influence us with the message of Hollywood. And, of course, we need to realize that this is a very dangerous war that they're waging against us and something that we basically don't know that much about and we need to learn more about. Of course, John, we know, too, that this eyeball that we see here on the stage is like the same one found on the back of the U.S. dollar. Isn't that right? Everyone knows about this image on the back of the dollar bill by now. You see the Illuminati eyeball at the top of the pyramid, and below it says, "In God we trust." So basically, this is the basis upon which the Illuminati built America, and by extension, a great portion. and by extension a great portion of the world. So much in the architecture of buildings that we see, also in the way, of course, that they govern Western nations. So basically, these people are running the scene behind the scenes, and their frontmen, of course, are the bankers that are controlling things on the world stage. Yeah, that's right. This huge eyeball basically represents the architect of the universe. And of course, he is none other than Lucifer himself. And I personally have studied this topic for years. All one has to do is open up the books of Albert Pike, the archmason of the Scottish Free Right who lived here in America, and who was a Civil War general. And of course, he became very well known for all his writings about Freemasonry. So basically, all one has to do is read the books of these high-level Freemasons themselves, and they'll see that all we're saying has been verified by the Masons themselves. And of course, the internet is full of videos on YouTube, let's say, where people can watch videos and all this stuff. But if we, as free citizens of the world, don't resist to all of this, then what it means is we've already bent into the pressure to accept the New World Order, so as to basically conform to it. And I remember watching a Greek broadcast clip where the famous Greek politician, Adonis Georgiadis, was basically saying whoever doesn't accept the New World Order will be destroyed. And of course other Greek politicians have said the same thing, as well as other world leaders. But I remember another experience that I had that is related to the great eyeball, basically, of the Illuminati. I had gone to a central metropolitan Greek Orthodox church somewhere in Athens, Greece. That's right, John. Are you talking about the eyeball in the church? So basically, within this large church in Athens, there is a huge eyeball that sits on the wall of the church. Yeah, John, but a lot of people say that that's just the eye of God who oversees us. I don't know. Basically, what do you say, basically? Well, Vasily, I've heard contrary to that, but regardless, there's been many archbishops of the official Greek Orthodox Church of Greece that have been Freemasons. And of course, Vasily, we also know that many Greek Orthodox groups that are very sincere have written about all this. We have also seen the current Archbishop of Greece, Hieronymus, photographed in a Freemasonic lodge conducting a ceremony with Freemasons. And of course, we've seen Greek Orthodox Church officials also in Jewish synagogues. So basically, the official Greek Orthodox Church back in the 1800s already came out with a decree back when it was, really sincere, that basically whoever prays in a Freemasonic synagogue or in a Jewish synagogue is to be cut off, is to be anathematized from the church. That's right, John. It's right that you're pointing all of this out, and of course, we don't want to basically stop any of what you're saying. Of course, it's well known that Freemasonry has corroded our society in many of its sectors, not just in Greece, of course, but of course in countries all over the world. I don't know if you saw recently how a metropolitan, the top metropolitan of the Orthodox Church, was involved in a court case where he was suing the Freemasons basically for their political corruption within Greece. Of course, this case has made a big stir within Greece because this church official has taken on Freemasonry. Of course, there's been other infamous court cases where Freemasons have been indicted for crimes against Greece. But let's not veer from our topic from today, because I know this is a huge, huge topic. But let's continue with the Oscars, John, and of course, let's talk about those in Hollywood that belong to these elite clubs. So basically, John, during the break, I got a lot of requests about, us talking more about the actual statue that they get during the Oscars. And basically what we understand is the Oscar ceremony is basically something similar to what they did in ancient times. So a lot of our viewers right now, John, are shocked. So people basically right now, they want to hear more about this because this is just impressive stuff. Of course, we see here some photographs of Johnny Depp and Leonardo DiCaprio doing the 666 with their fingers. So basically they place their palm over their eyes, but 3 of their fingers are forming what appears to be 3 sixes, 666 in other words. Well, at any rate, Vasily, I have basically tried to tie in this whole issue with Greece because I see a lot of television shows these days in Greece where you see people with the Illuminati symbol on their clothing or the eye of the Illuminati basically on their lapel or what have you. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, John. But look, here in Greece, I think a lot more people, the people in television who basically tout these Illuminati symbols, they really don't know what they're wearing or what they're promoting. Of course, in America, it's an entirely different story from what I understand. Because in America, you know, the people that are touting these symbols actually belong to secret societies. But in Greece, people are just, they do it for style. They really don't know what they're doing, and they don't really belong to any secret society. Some in Greece might do it for style, but some might do it because they may actually belong to a secret society. But who knows? But I don't really think that here in Greece, you know, they wear this type of symbology on purpose. So, you know, this also could be dangerous too because they do it out of ignorance. But it's not like, you know, these people here in Greece are crooked or evil. Well, basically, Vasily, what I want to say is that your average Greek has been influenced by the culture of the Illuminati. So, for example, when your average Greek kid listens to all the music out there, and they become vulnerable to the messages that are being passed into their subconscious by this music. And, you know, the people listening to this stuff, you know, the Greek kids, they know very well that there is a sinister message being passed on to them. They know that this music's wrong. But basically what I want to say is that, you know, when people, you know, receive the Oscar, when they go on stage to receive this little statue, what I was saying before is that this statue dates back to the Egyptian god Ptah, P-T-A-H. So Ptah stood upright and he had a staff in his hand. He clenched it and it, of course, reached to the ground. And, of course, this is exactly what the Oscar award looks like. There's no difference. John, I think that the author and the publisher and the Christian pastor in Texas, Tex Mars, has talked a lot about this. And, of course, that's right, Vasily. He's done an excellent work on all this, and I know there's a lot of Greeks who have caught on to his work and who have now dubbed a lot of his broadcasts. Greeks are becoming a lot more informed, and that's a good sign. But this small, let's say, I would call it idol of the Oscars that people get when they win the Oscar award. Basically, when one gets this award, he or she is now recognized as an elite actor, as a select top actor, an A-list actor. But as I was saying before, this is nothing more than a secret ceremony. The Oscars, in other words, that dates back to ancient Egypt. So basically, let's break this down. Whoever basically wins the Oscar award, he or she is symbolized as a pharaoh. And during the Oscar ceremony, or rite, if you will, he or she dies and goes basically into the underworld. It's kind of like they're experiencing their own quote-unquote born-again experience. But, of course, this has nothing to do with Christianity. So, during the ceremony, it's as if this person dies and he goes to the underworld to meet Osiris. In the underworld, of course. And so after that, he or she acquires life eternal, quote-unquote. So basically, if you Google or if you YouTube Freemasonic videos, the rites or the ceremonies of the Freemason, you'll see that all of what I just described is basically included in their own ceremonies for the initiations of their new members. Amazing, John. Amazing stuff. Basically, I want you to tell us now something concerning the following. Basically, since you live in Hollywood and you talk to people there in that area, what does your average person say about all of this? What is their opinion? Are there people in America that are awake that are looking into this stuff? Well, Vasily, everyone knows by now that, basically Hollywood, I call it Hollywood, is a place where strange things happen and that something is, of course, wrong with it. And, of course, that's why today you can Google or you can YouTube tons of articles, tons of videos where people, all they do is talk about this, how Hollywood is full of symbolism from the Illuminati and how they're passing us these messages. So basically, I've had numerous conversations with friends, with family, with strangers, and they all tell me that, yeah, something's wrong with Hollywood and that all this weird stuff is happening with this Illuminati stuff. But of course, there are few out there who dare to basically tell the truth about all this stuff. But, your average American at this point would be honest enough to say that, yeah, Hollywood has an agenda to destroy our Christian culture, to pervert the minds of our children, to basically pervert society with their messages. And basically this is all being done by the subliminal messages they're passing on to us through, the movies. I personally work in Hollywood. I'm called upon studios from time to time to go do Greek dubbing and Greek subtitling for Hollywood movies. So I've been in the studios a lot, namely Technicolor and DreamWorks. And as we know, that's belongs to Steven Spielberg. But most of these studios, of course, they are situated in Burbank, California. So basically, I see their studios and I see how they themselves have Masonic symbology everywhere over there in Burbank. So basically, I've posted all this stuff on Facebook for friends, but I can post it again after the broadcast. Basically, what I'm talking about is videos or pictures that I've taken of myself at Technicolor or at DreamWorks or other Hollywood studios. But basically, here in California, here in LA, there's this widespread opinion that, yeah, all this stuff happens, society's corrupt, Hollywood's corrupt, but whoever wants to basically become famous and become an actor, let's say in Hollywood, he or she's got to sell their soul a little bit to the devil in order to do it. That is a given. Of course, these people are not that fervent in their Christian faith as some of us are. They're not willing to take a stand against all this stuff. Well, John, basically, I'd like to thank you for being on today. I put you on the program because you live there in that area of the world, basically, and you've had a lot of experiences in LA and in Hollywood, and you know what's going on better than most of us here in Greece. That's right, Vasily, and as I said before, I've been to Hollywood many times, and, I've been to these studios, and even at DreamWorks, they've built a large university to basically, for students to basically come and study the art of making movies in Hollywood, to learn basically their magical art of making movies. So, students are taught to basically become, let's say, for example, wizards of Hollywood in their own right and to make these fantastical, amazing Hollywood films in order to basically propagandize the public. Well, thank you, John, for being on the program today. Thank you, Vasily, for having me on. Bye-bye. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, what you just heard was a dubbed broadcast from Greek into English of the show Codex of Mysteries from the Astra channel in Greece, on which I appear regularly as a guest speaker. And basically our topic again was basically the relationship between the Oscars, Hollywood, the Illuminati, and the New World Order. And again, basically it had to do with the fact that Hollywood promotes the New World Order agenda by promoting things like global warming, saving the planet and all that mumbo jumbo, which ties in, of course, with plans for the implementation of a New World Order, plans like operational plans like Agenda 21, which has to do with doing away with basically the middle class, doing away with private property, doing away with coal production, promoting green energy and things like that. Well, anyway, I hope that you basically enjoyed my dubbed broadcast from Greek TV. This is John Kountouris signing out for Greek News on Demand. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.